My husband and I have been married for 7 years, happily I thought. We have 2 girls 5 4 and 2 boys 2 and unborn. He's due any day. I lost my job back in March due to the pandemic, and it's been so nice being a stay-at-home mom to the kids. Our 4th child is due any day now, and about 2 days ago I received a bombshell: my husband had an affair. It broke me to the core. He is the love of my life. Then he hit me with the second part of the news: they had a baby about a month ago. He's about 2 months early and in intensive care, and his mother is an addict and was arrested, and they want custody to go to my husband. He told me I let myself go all these months and that it was a moment of weakness. He's telling me that we could still be a happy family and that his baby needs a father. Am I the idiot for not wanting any of this? His side of the family is calling me a monster for turning away a child in need. I feel like I'm living a nightmare. Edit: I've never wanted to run away, but oh how I do now. I wish I could just dig a deep dark hole in, lay in it in the fetal position, and pray this isn't happening. My best friend, love of my life, has lied to my face so many times. So many nights of working double shifts for us, so many side jobs for us, so many lies. I doubt he would have even told me had he not been having this custody situation. Here we are days away from having a new child and it feels so tainted. All this stress and he may come tonight. This is so terrible. Not the idiot. Get yourself in for STD test as soon as possible. Addicts are not known for being careful with their sexual health, and obviously he was sleeping with her with no rubber. After that, call a divorce attorney to find out what your options are and, if possible, move in with family until after you give birth and recover somewhat. You don't have to make any legal decisions immediately. I personally think divorce is the best thing for you and your kids. He cheated, blamed you for letting yourself go, and wants to stick you with raising his cheat baby. He has no remorse for what he did or what it will do to your family, but you do have time to think. Get some counseling for yourself, too. Not the idiot. For not wanting to accept the child. This is a horrible thing to happen, but I'm not sure how you can avoid accepting the kid while staying married to your husband. Are you suggesting that your husband put the baby up for adoption? Because he's at least going to be legally responsible for the baby, and he's morally responsible as well. There doesn't seem to be a universe where your husband stays your husband and the baby isn't a big part of your life one way or another. It's horrible, but this is what your husband has done. This is too complex. You need to have some really difficult conversations with him. Get couples counseling. Don't let him guilt you into staying just because he is supporting everyone right now. That is temporary, you can find another job. Ask yourself hard questions. If you stay, will you treat this child differently because of the circumstances of his birth? Do you want to be involved in the giant mess and legal cost when mom inevitably comes to get custody of her child? Can you forgive him and move on? Do you believe he is sorry and is capable of meaningful change, or is he going to continue his cheating? Take care of yourself and your kids. Do what is best for them. He made his mistakes and he has to accept the consequences. Absolutely do not let him blame you for letting yourself go. You are pregnant. That's a superficial excuse and it isn't good enough. I, 30, purchased a 3-bedroom condo in Toronto, Canada 5 years ago when I was in my 2nd year of medical residency. Soon after the purchase, I rented one of the rooms to my roommate, 29, to offset the costs of the mortgage. I live in one room, she lives in the second, and the third is my study and office. She has been a great roommate from the beginning. We aren't necessarily friends, as in we don't do things together for fun, but we get along exceptionally well. The entire roommate-tenant relationship has gone swimmingly up until recently. A couple of weeks ago, my roommate broke the news to me that she is pregnant. The father was a fling of hers, who does not want anything to do with the child. My roommate has decided she wants to keep the child anyways and raise it on her own. To me that seems like a huge challenge, and I admire her for it. The issue is, while I don't necessarily dislike children, I have no desire to live with a baby. While the condo is a fair size, I will most definitely be woken up by the babies crying at night. My condo is also where I like to come home to and relax, like a haven after a long work day, and the idea of coming home to a baby honestly seems absolutely chaotic. Especially since this isn't my own child. As difficult as it was for me to do this, I told her essentially what I've written here and that it would be best if she finds somewhere else to live. I am not rushing her out or anything like that. I have given her 6 months notice, since any later than that will come too close to the birth. She was honestly quite taken aback by this and thought that I was being cruel. Her primary concern is that rent has gone up substantially in the city since she signed on with me. I haven't increased her rent since she moved in, so she's essentially paying 2015 rent. She works as a waitress and will likely need to find a lesser apartment to keep within the same budget. A couple of other considerations are that she was out of work while restaurants were closed, but I did waive her rent for that period. All of the furniture is also mine, aside from her bedroom, so she would need to figure something out on that front as well, aside from all of the child expenses. I understand her position, and I feel horrible about the situation, but I honestly can't do it. Am I the idiot for this? No idiots here. It will always seem counterintuitive to not call someone the idiot for evicting someone when they're pregnant. However, you're not exactly throwing her out on the street to give birth in the gutter. You've been more than generous throughout her tenure by the sounds of it, and you've given her plenty of warning to move out. Her circumstances are changing through her own choices, and that will impact negatively on you. She may have hoped you'd be okay with it, but she should never have assumed. First, you are giving her half a year's notice. This isn't a sudden thing, it's a good enough time to make plans and figure things out. Second, living with a baby is not easy. This isn't some building you own and are renting out, this is the place where you live. You get special consideration towards your own residence that you wouldn't get for any other dwelling that you rent out. That said, check out the tenancy laws where you live. In the United States, family status is a protected class in regards to evictions, and it would be illegal to evict a tenant because they are pregnant. Usually Canada has stronger tenant protections than the United States, so you may want to talk to a lawyer. Why on earth are people on here so hostile to the entire idea of a woman getting pregnant? She didn't commit a crime, she didn't abuse him for telling her something she didn't want to hear, she just got pregnant and then given notice to leave, and that is horrible. She had feelings about it. He would too, and it seems like he understands perfectly why she reacted the way she did. No idiots here. It's good to be a decent person, and it's okay to have feelings in the real world. So, I, 20, live in a flat with 3 other people, childhood best friend, 23, a guy from my uni course, 20, and his cousin, 26. For the most part we get along really well and rarely have disagreements. However, this has been a real point of contention lately. About 6 months ago, I began a relationship with a guy I've known for a couple of years, 21. I know it's still a fairly new relationship, but I really like him, he makes me really happy, and we're pretty serious about each other. Up until recently, he would come visit me at my flat 3-4 times a week. This was mostly due to the fact that I have chronic fatigue, and going on proper dates can be really challenging for me. Instead of going out to dinner or a film, or whatever, we just chill in my room or the living room, watch TV, and get takeout or cook together. I didn't really consult anyone about this because, A, all the other flatmates have their partners over as often, if not more so, and B, he rarely spends the night and usually leaves before 10 p.m. because of his work schedule. So the issue, 2 weeks ago 26F comes to me and tells me that I need to stop having my boyfriend over because it's starting to get annoying. I asked her why, and she said it's irritating to have someone who doesn't live there skulking around all the time. I pointed out that her boyfriend sleeps over 3 nights a week and thus is here more often than mine, and she claimed that was different because they've been together for 11 years and are moving in together once her lease is up. She said she's discussed it with the other flatmates and they've all agreed he needs to stop coming over or he has to chip into the rent because it's getting ridiculous. Note: nobody else's partner chips in on the rent. I confirmed with the other 2 that yes, this is an agreement they've made, though my best friend said 26 basically made her agree by threatening to cut off the Wi-Fi and utilities, which are in her name, if she didn't. I asked if this rule applies to everyone, but apparently it's just me. I pointed out that it's unfair and was basically told to deal with it. My potential idiot move. I've begun loudly insisting that if my partner isn't allowed to come over, neither is anybody else's. If I answer the door to anyone's partner, I'll send them away. If I come home and someone's partner is there, I'll make a point to mention that I thought we weren't having partners who don't pay rent over anymore. I've asked her boyfriend over and over how much rent he's paying and pretend to be affronted and make a fuss when he says he doesn't. Everyone's pretty pissed at me and is telling me I'm being unreasonable. I know I'm being petty, but I think it's unreasonable that there's one rule for me and another for everyone else, and I'm trying to make that point. Am I really the idiot here? Unless there's something that isn't being disclosed on why they feel he's overstaying his welcome, you're not the idiot, and I think your crap-eating campaign is completely just. Now, if it's a matter of him eating some of your other flatmates' food, I can see where their irritation may actually be a thing, but without there being a specific reason why, it doesn't make sense why you're getting specifically targeted by this rule. It needs to be a rule for everyone. Either partners are allowed or they are not. There is not a difference between someone being together for a few months or 11 years, they are your partner and should be treated as such. There are of course some points of contention with partners though. I was in a house share where a guy's girlfriend would stay 4 nights a week and take 2 20-minute showers a day. At this point, we did have a house meeting and request she take her showers elsewhere or she'd need to contribute to the water bill. She chose to have her showers elsewhere. So her 11-year-old relationship with her boyfriend, who pretty much lives there more than your dude, doesn't chip in for rent but thinks your dude has to. She brags that her situation is different because we're together 11 years. But after 11 years, idiot should be pitching in then. Can't have it both ways. And like mentioned, she's probably not as open-minded as she claims to be. Not the idiot. Seems like she needs to hurry and get that place together, or you may want to rethink living there. Going around threatening people with withholding internet services and other crap. Necessary information. When my oldest son was 16, he got his girlfriend pregnant. After a lot of trouble they made all kinds of promises and decided they would care for the baby. This led to the girl getting kicked out by her parents, and she came to live with us. Except that when the baby was born, the girl broke up with my son and went back to her parents' house, leaving the baby with us. That was when my husband and I stepped up to help him raise our granddaughter while our son finished his studies and got a job to provide for her. When she was 1 year old he put her on daycare because my husband and I still worked and there was only so much we could do at that point. Once he finished college he rented a place to live with her. The help we provided after that was when he needed to go somewhere and couldn't take her with him or when one of them got sick. Now, the issue at hand is not with him, it's with his younger brother. He's 35 and married, he and his wife had my grandson last year, he's 10 months now. My daughter-in-law wants to go back to working, and while she can do her work from home, she prefers to work outside. Since I'm retired, my son asked me to take care of my grandson while they work. I asked him for how long he needed me to do it, to which my son replied that they didn't had a plan for it. I asked if they had considered daycare, and he said that neither he or his wife were comfortable with it. I also suggested they asked his wife's parents, and he said that they didn't had time for it. He thought of asking me, because I had helped his brother all those years ago, and it would basically be the same thing. I told him that no, it was not. I was 42 then, and I'm 59 now, I didn't had the health issues that I do nowadays like back pain and arthritis. Also, he was a married man with a wife by his side, not a 16-year-old with a baby. I would be willing to help them for a short period of time, but it seems like they have no plans beyond leaving the baby with me. Now he thinks I'm playing favorites and that I'm pressuring him and his wife to comply with my demands, but I think I'm just being reasonable. Not the idiot. Your son is a grown man. He and his wife chose to start a family as adults. That child is 100% their responsibility and they need to act as such. I understand having grandma and grandpa babysit from time to time, but, and I mean this is in the nicest way possible, you're too old to be taking care of a baby full time. My grandparents have arthritis and chronic pain as well, and the two of them can barely handle taking care of themselves. I think you need to really make it clear to him that your first son and granddaughter needed your help all those years ago, because it was a delicate and very difficult situation. Your child had a kid when he was still a child. Your adult son needs to understand how big of a difference that is. I wish you the best of luck and congrats on the grandkids. Quick story. My neighbors started watching granddaughter during the week while parents worked. Then they added weekends because parents wanted to relax and enjoy their weekends. Then granddaughter started spending the nights because it was easier for grandma to get her on the bus to kindergarten. Then neighbor was so relieved when she started full-time school because then she'd at least have a few hours to herself during the day. But then surprise. Daughter announces she's pregnant. And the cycle starts over again with 2 kids. Long story short. Put your foot down now. Your responsibility and their expectations and entitlement will likely only get worse. Offer to watch the baby during date nights or emergency if you want. Not the idiot. At almost 60 years old with back pain, being expected to keep up with a young toddler day after day would be a hell of a lot to ask. Once your son gets beyond the daycare panic, he will see that they're looking for the easy out right now, though, the peace of mind that comes from knowing a family member is with their first child. That's rough for them, but it's their problem and they will survive one of the first and hardest hurdles of raising their child. Also, you're correct, they are an established family with their own home and careers, and it's a far different place in life than being a scared single teen trying to care for a baby. I would say you're totally reasonable. My fiancé and I got engaged a week ago. It was an absolute disaster. I never wanted a party, but my fiancé's mom insisted and wanted to have the engagement party at a restaurant that is expensive to me and made my fiancé pull money out of his saving account to buy a house just so she could show herself off to her family. She picked a restaurant of her choice. Invited her whole family while I was only allowed to invite mom and dad. She didn't even order meals until later because she was arguing about how her favorites weren't on the menu. Lied to my parents about food and said in her invitation, "Join us in celebrating Jake and Sarah's engagement with desserts and champagne only." She said no kids but brought sister-in-law's kids with her. She sat in the middle, next to my fiancé, and they were both having a toast without me. I was feeling so uncomfortable and super pissed that I couldn't even hide it. My parents were the first to leave, they were upset, can't blame them, it was awful. We were about to leave, my mother-in-law wanted us to give her a ride home because brother-in-law left with his cousin. My fiancé said sure. Next thing I knew, she got into the passenger seat, sister-in-law tagged along and stuffed her kids in the back, where I supposed to sit. I found this so damn inappropriate and humiliating. I asked my fiancé if he was serious. I told him I belonged in the passenger seat, but mother-in-law said I was being disrespectful and refused to sit in the back and threw some comments at me. I lost it, literally called an Uber and told them to go. My fiancé lashed out and called me crazy and told me to get in the car because I was embarrassing him. We yelled at each other. He refused to leave. I got in my Uber as they watched and went to my parents, cried my eyes out, and refused to answer my phone. To spare myself the shaming. It was awful, so awful that I regret not leaving early. I hate them all, they're treating me like trash, and I've had it. I'm 24 and my fiancé is 27. Not the idiot. The real problem here is your fiancé, who allowed his mother to literally put you in the back seat. His mother is flexing her "I'm still the most important woman in my son's life" muscles by dictating how he spends his savings, who he sits with, and, crucially, whether her happiness and comfort are more important than yours. But his mother wouldn't be able to flex that strength if your fiancé didn't allow her to have it. During dinner, and probably still, she was the more important woman to him. Whole family was treating you like trash and that you've had it. So I assume this has been going on a long time. Based on your fiancé's actions in this situation, two things seem clear to me. 1. He's close with his family, especially his mom, so you're probably going to be around these people a lot. It's not like it's an occasional visit or holiday, which may be tolerable. It seems like you genuinely will be marrying his family if you marry him. And they'll likely continue to act this way. 2. Your fiancé does not respect you. I don't see that he stepped in anywhere in the planning or during the party to tell his mother she wasn't including you in a party about your engagement. The end result with riding home speaks for itself as well. I don't understand exactly what happened with the whole backseat part of this. It sounds like your fiancé was going to drive you and his mom home, but instead his mom wanted him to drive himself, her, your sister-in-law and your sister-in-law's kids, and leave you behind. But regardless, you and your family were meant to feel unimportant and were humiliated rather than celebrated like you should have been. It's unfortunate and disturbing that your fiancé was apparently fine with you being treated like this.